Okay, so first things first, y'all know I'm Sarah, right? Some of you guys don't know each other though. Am I right? Yeah. Some new faces. So since you guys are going to be talking with your table mates and with your discussion partner, I want everyone, not yet, I want you to high five everyone at your table, learn names. After you high five and get to know everyone's names, I want you to go ahead and discuss with your partner. Have you ever read something and had no idea what it said? Right?
Yes.
And I want to know what you read. So those two things I want you to talk about with your discussion partner, okay? Go ahead, get up, high five. What's your name? My name is so-and-so.
David.
What's your name?
I'm an adult education instructor. We teach people from 18 years old all the way up to, I've had 80-year-old students. So they're and anywhere in between. And this is my 4th year in adult ed. Okay, have you ever read something and had no idea what it said?
Yes.
Talk about that with your discussion partner. Real quick.
Plenty of times.
Yeah, all the time.
I don't really know.
Have you ever read?
Like the back of a calorie packet.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest ones for me.
Stuff from a doctor, like discharge papers or something. Like, I can read it, but I don't really know what it means.
Medical reports.
He has to tell me everything, like everything.
Okay, guys, bring it back up here.
Doctor reports, yeah, that's a good.
Bring it back up here. What? I want to know what you've read and you had no idea what it said. I have an example. I did a tax form the other day and I read it, some of the instructions on it, and I was like, what does this mean? I mean, I read it fine, right? But I didn't know what it meant. And I had to go to the Google machine and figure it out, right? So, Bobby, I heard you talking about an example.
Discharge papers from a hospital.
Okay.
Like, I can read them 100 times, and he still has to explain everything to me. Seriously.
Yeah, totally. Anybody raise their hand? Brandy.
Employment applications.
So, like, what on there would
Well,
be
just some of the questions they'll ask you, like, what do they mean?
right. Okay. Good examples. So, reading and understanding, it's not always the same thing, right? You guys didn't have any problem reading whatever it was that you read, but sometimes understanding is a little out of reach, right? Even for me. So, it sounds pretty simple, but to understand what a text says, you have to know how to find what the author is telling you, the author's point, right? And you have to be able to find the reasons the author uses to support that point, okay? So this is when we're reading anything that's trying to convince you of something. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but when you can find these things, then you can figure out, okay, can I use this? Is this valid? Can I trust this? Is it reliable? Everybody following me?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. I wanted to start out with building up to my I can statement and show students why it was important to know how to find the claim and the evidence, and how you can eventually use that to evaluate information in order to make good decisions. Why is this important? This ever happen to anybody in here? Have a little conversation kind of like that? I know some of you have. So everyday conversations and arguments with your friends, your loved ones, your neighbors, your whoever, we don't always want it to look like that so much, but when you're talking to people, you want to know, okay, what's the point? What is this person telling me? And you want to know what their reasons are that back up their points so that you can figure out, okay, is this person just kind of, blah, 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 blah? Are they making stuff off the top of their head? Or are they actually using good reasons that I can trust and that I know I should listen to them, right? Yeah, follow me?
Yes.
Another reason. Anybody like to online shop?
Oh, yeah.
And back there? Or even in the grocery store. When you're trying to figure out which item is better, right? You may go on Google or whatever website and read about that item. You want to know which one, when it gives you information, which item you can trust, which one is better when you're reading up on the things you want to buy. Is this information reliable on what I'm trying to look up here? Yeah?
Yes.
When someone is trying to sell you something, you want to know if you can trust this person, right? They're going to tell you all kinds of things that makes their product sound so good, but you have to be able to find their point and look at their reasons and be able to evaluate if it's reliable. You have to know what your contract says. Anybody buy a car in here? Raise your hand. Yeah, you got, like if you buy a car, you have to know what your payments are, what your interest rate is, how long your payment term
anything
is.
to do with cars and the legalities. It's
Yeah.
over my head.
Or even like buying a house
Yeah.
or a rental agreements, right? You have to be able to read something and know what it says.
Right.
Okay. So, being able to think about and evaluate information makes you a smart and informed person. Okay, but before you can ever evaluate those reasons and if it's valid and reliable, you have to be able to find those things first, right? You have to be able to find the author's point. You have to be able to find those reasons before you can ever think about, okay, should I believe this or should I look somewhere else? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's what we're going to talk about today. Today's focus, at the end of this lesson, you'll be able to find the author's main point and find the reasons used to support the point, okay? We're not going to make it any harder than this right here, okay? So our I can statement, you should be able to say this at the end of the lesson, I can find the author's main point and the reasons used to back up that point. Okay, so this is what we're going to do today. Okay, now, I'm a little distracted by that very shiny thing by Brandy's foot. What is that?
It's a penny.
I see a couple more. Bobby, there's one by your foot. Here, I'll just throw those away for you guys.
Pennies make dollars.
Give me this. I'm going to throw it away. These aren't worth anything.
Yes.
These are not worth anything. Who thinks I should throw them away? Raise your hand.
No one. Because they're worth something.
Who thinks I should give them to Warren here?
I do.
Anne's being nice. She's like, yeah, give them to Warren. So no one here would throw these away?
No.
Did you know that it's been an issue to eliminate the penny from our currency? It's been something that's been talked about. It's gone through like the planning stages. President Obama talked about it last year a little bit. Did you guys know that? Anybody know that?
Yeah, I heard about it.
You heard about it? Okay. You didn't know that? Yeah. And okay, so this issue, that's what we're going to be reading about today in our text, okay? We've got two different texts. One is for eliminating pennies, and one is for keeping pennies, okay? So just so y'all know what we're going to read about.
I'm pro penny.
You're pro penny?
I'm pro
Well, you might
penny.
change your mind. She said
They
no.
add up though. You put them in I got mine in a formula can, a baby's formula can.
Uh-huh.
I keep them in it and they just add up. And
They
then I
just
let
add
my
up?
kids spend them at the end of the year.
Okay, well, you might change your mind. And if you change your mind, I'll take all your pennies. You can give them to me.
No.
Okay. Let's talk about what a claim is. All right, the claim is the author's opinion or viewpoint. So when we're reading our texts, you're going to have to figure out, is this author pro-penny or anti-penny? It's what the author wants to convince you of. If it's an issue, it's like picking one side or the other, pro or con. Okay? The reasons, we're going to call that evidence. All right? So your evidence are the reasons the author uses to back up whatever claim or whatever side that they've taken. That's where they're going to try to convince you that they're right, that you should believe what I believe. Okay? It can be facts that they insert into their paragraphs. The evidence, that's where you figure out if what the author is telling you can be trusted. Is it reliable? Is it valid? Can I use this? Or are they trying to fake me out? Okay? So the evidence, that's super important. Okay, let's practice. I'm going to call on you. Okay? The Kentucky Wildcats are the best college basketball team in North America. I'm going to ask you, do you think it's a claim or evidence? If you have an answer for me, raise your hand. Okay, Angie, what do you think?
I think it's a claim.
You think it's a claim?
Yeah.
Who agrees with her? Who agrees with Angie that it's a claim? Who thinks it's evidence? Okay. This, while we think, us Cat fans, that it may be true, it's still an opinion, right? If I call my friend Heath on the phone and I ask him that, he's going to say, no, Duke is the best. So this is still a claim. Even though it may be true, it's still a claim, okay? Now let's look at this one. Isaiah Briscoe earned the first triple-double of his career against Ole Miss. Isaiah Briscoe's a point guard on the Cats team. Is that a claim or is it a piece of evidence? Raise your hand if you think you know. What do you think, Ann?
It's evidence.
It's evidence. Who agrees with Ann that it's evidence? Who thinks it's a claim? Okay, this is something we can actually go check out on a website to verify that it's true. This actually did happen. So that's a fact. Can't deny it. That really happened. So that would be a piece of evidence and not a claim, okay? Dogs make the best pets. Don't shout it out. Think about it. Is that a claim or is it evidence? Raise your hand if you think you know. Somebody I haven't heard from before. I've heard from you. Somebody at this table. What do you think, DJ?
Claim.
You think it's a claim? If you agree with DJ, raise your hand. Okay. Starting to get the hang of it, right? That is a claim. You're right. All right, next one. This was a little tricky. You should eat less fast food because it's unhealthy. Think about it. Claim or evidence? Claim or evidence? Now, that's tricky. It's tricky. What do you think, Laura?
Oh, I think it's probably evidence.
Okay, why do you say that?
Well, I don't know. It's just what I've always been taught. What I've
Okay.
heard. It's just what I've always heard.
Okay.
I
Does
mean,
anyone have a different opinion?
with doctors will tell you when you go to the doctor if you have high blood pressure and cholesterol and
So
all
we've
that.
heard it before. We know that it's a true thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but you can get salads at fast food places too, and they're healthy.
Ah, I'm going to get to that.
The thing about the salads is the salad might be healthy, but the dressing is what gets you.
Uh-huh.
I ate a salad at a restaurant the other day, and I looked at the fat content in the salad dressing. It was 22 grams.
Right.
I ate 2 packets. That's 44 grams of fat. So that's evidence right there that is very unhealthy.
Right.
Even though it's salad, the dressing is what gets you and makes it unhealthy.
Okay, so let's bring it back up here. So what you just did, you proved this point right,
No, she didn't.
right?
You can get the low carb dressing.
Fast food, it's unhealthy, right? The dressing is unhealthy.
Well, some of the dressings are unhealthy.
Okay, what I'm trying to get to is that this statement, that's something we can argue, okay? You should eat less fast food because it's unhealthy. Bobby said, but there's salads. And then Carrie said, but the dressing is really bad, guys. It's really bad for you.
But you can get the light dressing.
But you can get the light dressing. See, this is something we can argue about, okay? Did you guys watch that movie where not a movie, it was a link where a science teacher actually lost weight by eating fast food from McDonald's. I may be off on my facts a little bit, but he actually lost weight from eating fast food.
He probably did low carb. If you do low carb,
I'm not sure what, I think he just ate, just counted calories. But I could say that and prove this wrong.
You can lose weight, but your cholesterol will go up because of all the fat and grease and all that will can make your cholesterol go up and your blood pressure.
Do you guys see what I'm saying though about this statement? It can be argued.
Yeah.
Okay.
Statements can be argued.
Well, can you argue about Isaiah Briscoe getting a triple-double?
You can. Just because it was filmed doesn't mean it happened. Just because you have witnesses.
Corey, come on.
No, things can be faked. We only know it to a certain percentage. This is bleeding over into philosophy.
Philosophy. Can you explain that?
Certainty can't exist. Like, we can only know things to a certain percentage, not 100%. 100% certainty doesn't exist.
Right. So I could say something that could be a counter argument to this and maybe prove this wrong.
Always. Yeah, you can always do that.
Right? Okay. We'll talk about that later. Okay. I'm interested.
We don't have to talk about that later. That just proves that people seeing it doesn't mean it happened. Like,
Okay.
None of this proves anything.
Well, there's 24,000 people that did see that happen.
Okay.
And there's a science teacher that could prove this wrong, right? That says, yeah, I can lose weight on fast food. It's okay. And then you do you guys see what I'm saying here? This sounds like evidence, but it's a claim. Because it's saying this is what you should do. Okay?
But you can still argue it.
You can argue it.
Yeah.
Having students discuss things together, I think, help break the ice. Creating kind of a social atmosphere where it's okay to bounce ideas off each other really makes it a good environment to take a risk and learn something. Okay, go ahead and go to your first text. It's called the Forbes article. Go ahead and grab your pen. Now, I'm going to read this out loud to you, but I want you all to follow along with me. We're going to be looking for the claim, and we're going to be looking for pieces of evidence, okay? So if you don't care, just use your pen and kind of track along with me as I read. And we're going to figure it out. Okay, so earlier this month, Henry Aaron of the Brookings Institute lent his name to the cause of getting rid of the penny, our 1-cent piece here in the United States. Aaron joins the group of anti-pennies, that would be a play on penny ante, which includes A-listers such as former Council of Economic Advisors Chair Greg Mankiw and the nation of Canada. Last year, Canada, if you haven't noticed, stopped minting pennies. Aaron's argument is that pennies and nickels cost too much to make and aren't worth the hassle. To wit, a penny costs nearly 2 cents to make, a nickel nearly 8 cents. And since the U.S. Mint has minted nearly 92 billion pennies and 15 billion nickels since Y2K, the nation's $1 billion loss making these coins is not, like the coins themselves, chump change. Back in 1940, and even much after that, we got along just fine without coins that bought as little as pennies and nickels do today. You guys think we've come across a claim yet? I always try to think of my lessons as a process to scaffold for students, presenting information and building on it, getting students comfortable with seeing me do it and having them work together to do it, and then having them try themselves, try independently. By thinking of it like that, you can get students' confidence levels up. You can get them comfortable with working with text and working with information. In Aaron's vision, the dime would become our new penny. Everything would be rounded to the nearest tenths place. John D. Rockefeller must be rolling in his grave. He used to give out shiny new dimes to lads and lasses for a job well done. I can't think of any good reason not to do so, to get rid of the penny and nickel, Aaron writes. Yet the reason to keep these money pieces is actually very compelling. Okay, so what have we read about so far? What's the gist so far?
To get rid of pennies?
We've got a guy, right, Henry Aaron, who is for eliminating the penny. Okay, but if you guys will look in paragraph 4, it says, I can't think of any reason not to do so, yet the reason to keep these money pieces is actually very compelling. That right there is your claim. Okay, he's saying, yet, right, but there's actually some good reasons why we need to keep the penny. Okay, that right there, if I can find it, that's our claim.
And he's saying the reasons to get rid of it is it's costing more to make it than to not make it.
Right, so they're talking about, they've kind of led up to the claim. And this is something I wanted to talk to you guys about. Sometimes when you read something, the author doesn't come right out in the very first paragraph and say, this is what you should think, right? That's not always going to be the very first thing you read. Sometimes the author kind of builds up to a point. Okay, and that's what this author is doing. He's saying, okay, this Henry Aaron guy, he wants to get rid of the pennies, but there's actually a good reason to keep them around. There's some good reasons, okay? You guys following me? Yeah? Okay, so that's our claim. Do you guys kind of understand how to look for a claim? You're looking for that author's main point, and then we're looking for reasons that the author uses to back up that point, okay? So, I have an activity for your whole table to do together. Okay, I have 3 envelopes, one for each group. In each envelope, there's going to be one claim and a bunch of pieces of evidence. Okay, so you have to figure out with your group what is the claim and what are the pieces of evidence that back up that claim. Not all the evidence will back up your claim. Okay, there's going to be some pieces in there that don't fit in with the claim. So you have to work with your group to figure that out. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a piece of Post-it paper. You're going to lay it flat on your desk, and you're going to tape the claim and its corresponding evidence onto the poster. Okay, and I would like for you to label each one either claim or evidence. Make sense? Give me a thumbs up if you understand. Everybody understand? Okay. So I'm going to take a minute and pass that stuff out to you. You guys can go ahead and open the envelopes up and start looking at them. This stuff is very sticky. Watch yourself.
Okay, so we need to write claim and evidence on it.
I would go ahead, just lay it on the table, and then I would spread your pieces of paper out on the poster board so you can see them. There you go. Lay this right here.
And the machines took these.
Not more people be using them.
Stuck to the table. Which one y'all want to do first?
I guess the claim wouldn't it be? Try to find it first. What do you got to have?
This would be a claim, wouldn't it? Some supporters of the penny point out that it's the only coin bearing the image of Abraham Lincoln, probably our nation's most revered president. Eliminating the penny, they argue, would be disrespectful to his memory. That'd be a claim or evidence.
I would imagine it would be a claim.
I think
Claim.
that's the opinion, really.
So claim.
Yeah.
Let's put it up here. We ain't got no table. We have to put it up here and put claim above it.
Guys, make sure you read all of the pieces of paper before you make some decisions, okay?
No. We got this.
Might be just. She said not all of them go, so that might just be something.
According to the 2014 annual report, what do you all have?
That one might be one.
Claim or?
Yeah. Do we only have one claim?
I think she said we'd have more than.
Only one claim.
One claim?
Oh,
Okay. We'll see, what was this one up here? Let's
You're writing a paper.
let's look at this one.
Writing a paper, you're putting your claims, and then you're trying to back up the.
it costs now about 17 or 1.7 cents to make 1 cent. That means whenever the mint produces penny and sends it out to a bank, it actually is losing money on the deal. It would be evidence. It would be evidence because it says according to the 2014 annual report.
And the other one you got is evidence too, right there.
This one? Yeah. In 2014, the mint shipped out more pennies than nickels, quarters, and dimes put together, over 7.9 million coins. Okay, so that's evidence.
Randy, I'll probably ask you to.
Mark that out.
I'll ask you to explain.
Post-it note paper. It sticks.
Just what you told me.
Six months retired, the U.S. penny cites a study done by Walgreens International Association of Convenience Stores showing that handling pennies adds an average of 2 seconds to each cash transaction.
Yeah, because I would think it would be because
There's only one claim in the whole thing. Only one claim. So you guys, you need to read all of them and figure out which one is the opinion. Okay? Make sense?
despite all the arguments for the retiring the penny as of 2014, the majority of Americans.
Guys, make sure you read all of the pieces of paper before you make some decisions, okay? There's only one claim.
Just one claim, and the rest is evidence. Okay.
Think of it like you're writing a paper. Like you're writing a paper, you're putting your claim,
Yeah.
and then you're trying to back up what it says.
Okay.
Okay.
We need pennies because they help keep prices low. Would
I
that
kind
be
of
a
feel like
claim?
that's the claim. That is the claim, right there, is the claim. And we need to label claim,
How do you know that, Brandy? How do you know that?
because that's just somebody
There's no
saying
proof
that.
of
That's
it.
not, how's a penny keeping the price low?
Right.
Well,
It's not a fact, that's opinion.
they could round up instead of like rounding down.
Brandy, I'll probably ask you to say that.
What?
I'll ask you to explain that a little bit later. How you knew that was a claim? Just what you told me.
Somebody's opinion.
Yeah.
So then
How do they help keep the prices low? Where's the facts? So label claim, let's see, and then the rest is evidence.
The group work was probably the most important part of the lesson. That's where they really got into the nitty-gritty of, okay, what is a claim? What makes a claim different from evidence? And does this evidence line up with my claim? Is it aligned? Because it would be too easy to separate the claim out from the rest of the evidence. I wanted to really get them thinking about how everything aligns together. Once they found the claim, I saw that every group just had all their evidence listed underneath the claim. Like, okay, we got it. And so from there, I said, well, not everything lines up with your claim that you have. So you guys really need to look critically at this and think about, okay, does this line up with what this is saying up here? By doing that, I think it got them to really dig into the text a little bit more and think about what they were reading. I was really surprised at how some of them struggled a little bit, but it was a good struggle because it was a learning process. We got through all of them yet?
Yeah, we read them.
Okay. Maybe if you do this, like just kind of separate the ones that you know are facts, separate
Right.
those out and eliminate some options, right?
Right. Some supporters of the penny point out that it's the only coin. This one seems like it would be evidence, like a fact too, because I would think that that's kind of disrespectful of his memory too. And so I would say some supporters probably do think that. So I would say that that is evidence.
Carrie, that's awesome. I may ask you about that later.
Okay.
Okay?
They're so hard to use that they end up stuffed in jars or abandoned on sidewalks.
How are we doing, guys?
So we only have one.
Only one claim. There's only one.
Okay, and the rest is evidence, right?
All the evidence may not go with your claim.
Okay.
Some of it may just be random.
Okay.
So let's find the claim first. Did you guys find your claim?
We
I think that's the claim.
We think this one's it.
Are we right or wrong, Teach?
Teach.
We think this is evidence because it's,
Okay. Is this an opinion, or is that something that probably happened? Does that sound like
It's an
something?
opinion.
It's talking about some people's opinion,
but
Yeah.
not all
but
people's.
does this sound like something I would like if I was writing a paper to convince you of it? Right? Is that something I would start out with?
No, probably this one. Or maybe this one.
So just like that Forbes article, you're looking for something that's gonna start the conversation. It's gonna be an opinion. Okay. Let's look at some of these other ones we have here.
Vending machines won't take pennies, neither do parking meters.
Yeah. The one that they have. David, can you read out what you have for me?
Which one?
This one that you had before.
Oh, some supporters of the penny point out that it's the only coin bearing the image of Abraham Lincoln, probably our nation's most revered president. Eliminating the penny, they argue, would be disrespectful to his memory.
Okay, so that's kind of what we thought was the claim. And it is about somebody's opinion. Okay, but it's not necessarily an opinion that I'm trying to convince you of. Okay,
David moved that to the
That's an
opinion.
opinion.
that's exactly right. Now, how do you know this is an opinion or a claim?
'Cause there's no facts putting it that it wastes time or government money.
Right. It's not necessarily a fact, it's just an opinion. I saw that they struggled a little more than I anticipated with differentiating between a claim and an evidence or an opinion and a fact. And the fact that they struggled with that showed that it was really what they needed to be working on. It also helps me know that they're not ready yet to go on and evaluate information to figure out if it's reliable and valid and if I can trust it. There's going to be pieces of evidence that you don't need to have on your poster because they will not go with your claim. Okay, so be looking over that. There's going to be some pieces of evidence that don't go with this, that don't relate. I put some random things in there too.
Okay.
So,
we don't need to. Okay, wait a minute.
Take that one off.
Wait a minute. I didn't know that. So wait a minute before we finish.
that's okay.
Okay.
So so will you read that for me, Carrie?
President Obama in his 2014 YouTube chat suggested that Americans are attached emotionally to the penny.
Okay, so
Pennies have become useless and worthless.
does that relate to that?
And it's about the penny. Well, it's really all of them are about the penny.
What is our claim about here?
Pennies have become useless and worthless.
Does this support that?
I don't think so.
Not really, right? It's not talking about being useless or worthless.
No, he's talking about the people.
Exactly. Right. So we don't need that one. You guys see how that works?
We need pennies because they help keep prices low.
Okay. So this statement about President Obama suggesting that people are attached emotionally to the penny. Does that have anything to do with this?
No, not really.
Right. So we don't need it.
No.
So then we probably need that one though.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really an opinion. Well, it's by activity.
Yeah. There's only, I read that the only place that takes pennies is where like Abraham Lincoln was born.
And I think this one too, it says
Which is
penny
fair.
supporters point out that if pennies are eliminated, all cash transactions will have to be rounded off to the nearest nickel. Would that
I think that needs to be.
No.
Does that go with this? Does this support this claim?
No.
So okay, so
It
if you're
actually
buying,
makes it higher.
so okay, round it off to the nearest nickel.
So would that be evidence right there? That would
So
make
it's
it
saying
higher.
if we eliminated the penny, prices would not be kept low. This would be proving that point.
Okay.
Okay, you guys are doing good. Keep going. Process of elimination. I tried to not help too much, let them struggle and see if they can get to it on their own. And if they couldn't do that, then I would try to interject and maybe give them a helpful comment or see if there was anything I could do to help them get there without totally giving them the answer. I really just tried to listen to them during their conversations.
Citizens who retire in the U.S. penny cites a study done by Walgreens and the National Association of Convenience Stores showing that handling pennies adds an average of 2 seconds to each cash transaction. We got our evidence, Teach.
That's about wasting time.
We got our claim and our evidence, we think. You got to go for right or wrong.
I don't know if this one goes, but it might.
Yeah, because they wasted
loss.
over 55 million in 1 year.
Oh, okay, I see where it
We
Okay,
think, Teach.
I love it.
I think
High fives all around. High five. Woo.
Team
High five. Slap
effort.
hands. Slap hands.
people want to do. And we all participate.
Okay, I'm going to ask you guys to talk about this, how you figured this out, okay? So Ann, I may ask you to talk about how you saw and how this keyword, right? One of the things that really helped me know whether they were getting it or not was being able to look down at the poster board on the desk and having them label what was a claim and evidence. And from there I could see what they needed to work on and maybe where some misunderstandings were.
Tell him where he had to go to figure out about his taxes on his car. So he paid the payment all in pennies, and he brought in like wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow full of pennies, and legally they had to take it. And he paid other people to break apart the rolls of pennies the night before and put them in the wheelbarrows. And so like they had to do it, and they ended up breaking the change counter, so they had to count them all by hand. There was wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow of pennies that they had to count because this guy was mad. It was great.
That would be pretty funny to see.
Do you think this is evidence to our claim that we've chosen?
How this keyword, right?
Yeah. 55 million.
There, that's evidence.
By the time I get to the end of this, I've forgotten the entire thing that I've read. I don't know what that's called. I'm sure that's a problem though.
Low-income Americans who has the federal. So it's talking about a study are more likely than other consumers to pay for their purchases. So low-income Americans, it's saying there was a study that showed that they're more likely to pay with cash.
I don't know how that would have an effect on them. It doesn't really matter what they'd be paying with.
Well, if it's talking about rounding up or rounding down, if they were the ones that paying with cash, that would either make them lose money. You know what I mean? If they round up, that would mean the people that pay with cash would lose more money.
Well, are they all of a sudden? Is this an instance where they all of a sudden stop taking pennies, or just
Right.
stop making them?
Yeah, that's kind of the hypothetical. Like
So
they're
they
like
stop accepting them.
right.
Okay, that
Right.
changes things. I didn't know it was going to be like that.
So does that relate to this?
I'm not gonna go to.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it would.
If
Because
they're not going
it
to take
says
pennies
it would be
anymore.
hit especially hard.
Okay, tape it on there. Let me see what else you guys got.
This is what we chosen.
Let's see.
We eliminated these two and kept those.
Okay, so all we're talking about is keeping prices low. Okay. Why did you guys keep this one on there?
This one, and as it grows easier or ever easier for charities to accept donations electronically, coin drops are likely to play a diminishing role in fundraising, because usually
Does that relate to what this says?
because they help keep prices low. No, not really.
Not really.
No,
Not really.
no. So that one would be thrown
Giving
out.
money away.
Yes.
Okay, guys, everyone finished? Yeah? Okay. So some things that I saw, we had a little bit of trouble figuring out the difference between the claim and the pieces of evidence, right? I know in this group back here, David, can you talk about kind of the trouble that we had with the claim and
We
the...
used this as a claim first, didn't we?
Yeah.
Let's see, was it over here? This is the one that we... Does anyone else have the piece of evidence that talks about the supporters?
For the penny, point out that it's the only coin bearing the image of Abraham Lincoln.
The image of Abraham Lincoln, you guys had that? Okay, so David, can you talk about how you guys thought that was a claim?
Well, we thought it was the claim, but it's actually an opinion.
But she's saying why we thought it was because it was disrespectful to Abraham Lincoln's memory.
Yeah, and then it says some supporters.
Yeah, that's enough.
So it talks about opinions, right? It's kind of an opinion, but it's not the overarching opinion that all the evidence backs up, right? So just because it's talking about an opinion doesn't mean it's necessarily a claim. Okay, you guys following me?
Yeah.
I saw that. Okay, and another thing I saw was that when I told you that not all the evidence goes with that claim, I think every single group put all the evidence on their poster board. Brandy, can you read out the piece that we just took off about charities? Yeah.
And as it grows ever easier for charities to accept donations electronically, coin drops are likely to play a diminishing role in fundraising.
So can you talk about how you figured out that that didn't go with your claim?
Well, I mean, it's giving away money, so somebody's losing money.
Right. So what's your claim?
My claim is we need pennies because they help keep prices low.
Right. So we talked about how even though it's talking about pennies, it's not about keeping prices low, right? It's kind of related, but it's not related to that very specific claim about keeping prices low. Yes. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go to this table over here. Okay. So Carrie, can you kind of talk about how you and your group kind of figured out what the claim was after reading all those?
We used the process of elimination, basically. We went through and just kind of eliminated which ones were obviously, facts, and then it ended up leaving us with this one, which was an opinion, which was pennies have become useless and worthless, which is not true.
Right. Well, we can argue that, right? That's a fact we can argue either for or against. So
Right.
that makes it a claim. Right. Awesome. I'm so proud of you guys. Give yourself a pat on the back. Oh, Jeremy, I'll give you a pat on the back. Okay. Okay, guys, we're going to move on. Can someone from each group just pick up that poster and hang it somewhere close to you so we can clear up some table space? You guys can just stick it on the board up here. Great job, guys. Okay, do you guys feel a little better about finding the claim and the evidence now? Yes. Feel a little bit more confident? Because you are getting ready to do that yourself. It's your turn. So go ahead and go to the Huffington Post article. I think it's the blue paper. Okay, eyes up here. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to expect you to do. You can work with a partner, the person beside you, that's your discussion partner. or you can kind of read it independently. But what I would like for you to do is work with your partner to circle the author's claim, just like I did a minute ago, and underline the evidence that supports that claim. And then there's some questions after that, after the article. I think it's a green piece of paper. It says text-dependent questions at the top. You're going to work with your partner to answer those questions, and then we'll go over it as a big group. Are we understand? Thumbs up if you understand.
Yes.
All right. Holler at me if you need me. I'll be right here. I'm now more aware of how important digging into the actual text is. I think before the focus was more on making connections to the text, but now that I'm aware of how important it is to really stay in the text and draw evidence from the text, that has really helped them be able to become better readers and really think about what they're reading.
A HuffPost YouGov poll conducted in January found that only 34% of Americans are in favor of eliminating the penny, while 51% oppose it. It is possible that nostalgia and our fond memories of take a penny, leave a penny trays are protecting a coin that's worthless. And if not, why exactly is the penny worth keeping around? And let's consider the following. It costs more than 2 cents to make 1 penny. According to the U.S. Mint, a penny costs 2.41 cents to produce. That means the government spent nearly $169 million in 2013 just to put $70 million of currency into circulation. The disparity between the actual monetary worth of the penny and the value of the zinc inside has even led to concerns that people would stop using the coins as money and start melting them down for raw materials.
I wanted to model how to read a text and to find the claim and evidence. I wanted to have some group work, so we had a group activity where students found the claim and evidence, and they had to kind of discern between the two and line up evidence with the claim. And then I had an independent or partner reading activity where they read a text and they had to find the claim and evidence and answer questions about the text. I think what I would like to do is practice a little bit more just to make sure that they understand the difference between a claim and evidence, and that they can go through a text and be able to find that with no problem. Once I feel comfortable that they can do that independently, then I would feel better about going on and analyzing the kinds of evidence that we have and evaluating whether it's valid and reliable. I think the biggest thing that I've learned myself is how prepared you need to be and how well you really need to know your text. You need to know that text inside and out so that you can be prepared for any questions you may get, or so that you can be prepared to scaffold students to get the understanding that they need to get. Make sure you are prepared with your text, that you know your text inside and out. Before, I had a habit of just winging it with the text and facing problems as they come during the lesson. And I found that being more prepared and really knowing your text and analyzing it, that can help prepare you for questions that the students may have, or that can help facilitate good discussion and help the class understand the text better.
I think I hear this, Brittany, because it's reading and saying how much it's spent and cost to do this and that, making a penny.
Does anybody have any problems? Yeah, I like that word defective. That's got the same prefix on it, right?
Yeah.
I like how you thought about that.
Defective?
We'll talk about that when we talk about the questions. I'll probably call on you, Ann, to tell me how you thought about that. Okay. We finishing up, guys? Brandy, you finished? Brandy, you finished? Okay. Okay, guys, let's bring it up here. Let's talk about number 1. Is the author's claim in paragraph 1 or 2? And what is the author claiming?
We're protecting a coin that is worthless.
Now this was a little bit tricky, and we talked about it over here with this group. It's actually, he poses it as a question, so it's like he's kind of subtly making his point. I'll read it to you if you don't care. In that paragraph 2, he says, it's possible that simple nostalgia and our fond memories of take a penny, leave a penny trays are protecting a coin that's worthless. And that's a question. And if not, why exactly is the penny worth keeping around? So even though it's not a statement where he's saying, here's what I think the penny's worthless, he's still making a claim by posing a question and asking you to think about that. And everything he writes about later on in the text supports that, like Warren was telling us. Warren actually looked at the evidence first and then came up with the claim, and that's another great way to do it. Okay, number 2, how does the fact that a penny costs 2 cents to make relate to the fear that people will melt them down for raw materials? If you have an answer to that one, can you raise your hand if you want to share? Go ahead, Carrie.
Because the zinc that is in the penny is worth more than the coin itself.
Right. So, if you have a bunch of pennies, you might make more by melting them down, right?
Right.
Because they're worth more than they actually, than you can spend it with.
Right.
Okay, number 3, the author says in paragraph 5, it probably says something that you see pennies lying abandoned on the street in the first place. What is the author trying to say? Anybody have an idea on that one? Ann, what do you think?
To try to prove a point that nobody really cares about pennies. Nobody's going to miss them.
Right, if it was really worth something, don't you think if we all saw pennies laying on top, we'd be fighting over them? Right? Yeah. You give me that penny,
Like a quarter.
That's exactly right. Thank you.
It is saying that a penny is not worth the time and energy we use to pick it up.
Because, right, he talked about how you can hardly use it.
You make more in an hour than it's not even worth the time to pick it up.
Right. I thought that was really interesting.
Right.
Yeah, good job. Okay, moving on to number 4. Give 2 pieces of evidence that prove eliminating the penny was successful. Grab mine. Where did it talk about that the penny was successful? In Canada, right? And I actually had someone correct me and say that it's not actually totally eliminated yet, but they're kind of in the phasing out process, just so you guys know. So this, just kind of keep that in mind. But it talks about in paragraph 10 that Canada, they did a study that showed that there would be no significant impact on inflation. About a year into Canada's penniless phase, this has proven true, much like it has in other countries. So that right there, that's a piece of evidence, right? In paragraph 8 and 9. There's some other examples of evidence that talk about how Canada has started to phase it out. Okay? Everybody good on that one? Last question. Is the author hopeful that the penny will be eliminated or not? What evidence supports your answer? Does anybody have an idea on that one? I thought that the last paragraph was really where this question was answered. And if you look at paragraph 12, he says, however, none of this information seems to satisfy those who believe we should keep minting pennies and nickels in their current state, even if we do so at a loss. Does he sound hopeful there? No. He said he sounds kind of disappointed, doesn't he? So that is what I would use for my evidence there. Okay, if you'll go to, anybody have any questions on that or any comments about some problems you had answering questions? Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Okay, that last piece of paper in your packet I want everyone to do this individually where it says exit slip. I want you to use that Huffington. Can I have eyes up here just so everyone's understanding me? I want you to fill out the author's claim and the evidence, okay? And then on the bottom, I want you to kind of think about what we did today and answer the questions that I have for you there. So the next lesson, we're going to talk about, take it a step further and talk about actually evaluating the evidence. Okay, if you guys will go ahead and take a minute and fill out that last sheet and we will wrap it up. I really wanted to see after the fact if the students had really gotten it independently. So having each student fill out their own exit slip and fill out the claim and the evidence for the article that we had just read, that really helped me know if they really got it. And I had another question on their self-reflection that asked, name something new that you learned today. And I saw on probably 90% of the papers comments on what a claim was and what evidence was. So that was really good to see. That let me know that they really did get it. The students that we have are the people that have fallen through the cracks a lot of times. So I really want them to be excited about learning and know that being a lifelong learner is really, that's like the best thing you can have. No one can take that away from you. That's why this work is so worth it.